Welcome to Frank and Upfront. I am your host, Mr. Franklin. A very special welcome to all of you who are joining me here on this podcast. I invite you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of weekly uploads. If you wish to advertise on Frank and Upfront, please email me at frankandupfrontpodcasts@gmail.com. If you wish to donate to my channel, you can do so via PayPal at Frank and Upfront. Frank and Upfront is moving to a new channel. It is the one with the golden microphone at the bottom of this picture. Effective November 1st, Frank and Upfront will be uploading exclusively to the new channel. And what that means is that we have 2 weeks to go before I will be uploading to the original channel for the last time. Frank and Upfront is now on Medium. Medium is an online magazine that independent writers could submit, to which independent writers can submit their articles. I am one such contributor to the magazine. Here is a sampling of my most recent article. Your support is much appreciated. Today's topic: Columbus Day should be a reflection of Indigenous genocide. Once a year in the middle of October, we have to be reminded of the hypocrisy of this wicked Babylon system, hailing Columbus as a hero and a martyr by having a holiday named after him. Now, he might be the hero to this system, but he's not my hero. He's neither my hero, nor should he be the hero of any other descendant of the indigenous people of the Americas. They give him a national holiday of his own. The standard school curriculum is still teaching that he's a hero and a martyr and to be revered and upheld. When the truth is anything but. Columbus was a pillager and a rapist and a murderer and a conquistador. Who was lost at sea and end up in the Bahamas believing he was in the Philippines. And they found him half dead, him and his crew. And they nursed him back to health. And he repaid them with genocide in more ways than one. A genocide of the physical body. But no, there were too many of us. That couldn't be effective. Even though some were killed, they killed as many as they could, transplanted to Africa and other parts of the world as many more as they possibly could. The ship could hold only so many. The transatlantic slave narrative was told to you in reverse. They picked us up off the land and brought us over to wherever, not the other way around. The ship could hold only so many people. And the story of Pocahontas is a reflection of that. Pocahontas was brought to, I believe it was, where was that? Spain? Correct me if I'm wrong. Brought to Europe as a symbolism that some of us were brought, taken up off the land and brought to Africa, to Southeast Asia, and South Asia, in India, in East India, and even to Europe and to Australia. But then the rest of us who remained, they couldn't kill us and they couldn't take all of us up off the land and uproot our settlement and take us to wherever. They couldn't do that to all of us. So those of us who were left behind experienced another kind of genocide. Some experienced a genocide of their genotype, where they were raped with Eurocentric DNA and the offsprings were born as mestizos. Then there were others who were raped by means of identity. The Willie Lynch Manifesto was one of divide and conquer. And Columbus and his crew and those who he inspired did exactly that. Divide and conquer. A genocide of the identity. Because the pre-Columbian Americas consisted of settlements of brown tribes and black tribes. Brown tribes like the Aztecs, the Incas, the Taínos, the Kalinagos, the Arawaks, and black tribes like the Olmec tribes. There were black and brown tribes over here, and we didn't exist in perfect peace and harmony, as I've said before on this program, but we existed in relative peace and harmony. Wherever there are human settlements, there would be a competition between men and between tribes for benefits and spoils, for the sake of survival. The kind of struggle and fight that perhaps mankind was naturally meant to endure, that is in accordance with natural law. But it wasn't racially inspired, and one group or one tribe did not see the other tribes as being inferior. There were tribes there were wars, well, not wars, fights for scarce benefits and spoils. There were fights among black tribes, among brown tribes, and even intercolor tribes, black and brown tribes. There were black on brown wars, black on black wars, and brown wars. It was not racially inspired. Racism, as we understand it today, is a Eurocentric concept. It was brought to us by the Europeans, by even the very Columbus himself. They created racism in a hierarchical construct where one race is superior to the other and the other is inferior and subservient. That's their concept. And they impose their perspectives on the world. And the rest is history. Right? Of course, we had our tribal differences. Of course, there were fights for benefits and spoils for the sake of survival and in accordance with natural law, but it was not to the psychopathic degree of the kind of racism brought to us by the Europeans. If there is any legacy of Columbus, it is a legacy of psychopathy and racism as a hierarchical structure in the society of indigenous peoples at the four corners of this earth. Wherever he went and saw indigenous people, whether in Southeast Asia, in Oceania, in the Caribbean and Central and South America, and North America, and Africa, the same system was run on us and repeated everywhere he went. The Polynesian islands in the Pacific, wherever they went, at different times throughout history. And as a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. In Japan, in medieval Japan, medieval Japan was run by the shogunate, the shoguns of the East. And in order to be a samurai and to be a shogun, you had to have black blood in you. That was one of the prerequisites. You had to descend from Afrocentric roots. Right? And that would continue for another however many hundreds of years it was, until the Meiji era in Japan started, the restoration of Japan. And that the Meiji era was brought to Japan by the Europeans' arrival and settlement on their land. Now, there were some benefits to the Meiji era. There was an advancement in technology, in transport and shipbuilding. But that's not to say that the shogunate era was medieval. Yes, they call it that, but that doesn't mean it was medieval. Who told the Italians that Japan wanted a restoration? Why did they impose their Meiji era on Japan? Who told them that Japan wanted restoration? Why are they going over there meddling in people's business, offering what they did not, offering that which they were not asked for, that which was unsolicited, that which was not requested of them? So anyway, the Meiji era had its benefits, of course, I would never deny that. It also came with its cons as well. For one, the Europeans had their own agenda for overthrowing the shogunate. And for two, self-hate were taught to the Japanese. They were brainwashed to believe that anything Eurocentric is superior, Eurocentric beauty, standard of beauty is superior, Eurocentric college education is superior. And they started to become culturally pauperized. Yes, they There were developments in military strategy, weapons, shipbuilding, trade and transportation. All of that was restored. And Japan was made ready for the modern world. This was in the 19th century. I would think maybe the 1860s or so. So they were being prepped to compete in the modern world that would exist coming up in the 20th century. But while they were being brainwashed and indoctrinated with European education, they were being taught self-hate. To this day, you have people in Japan who are bleaching their skins, dyeing their hair, wearing contacts to look more Eurocentric. But I'm thinking to myself, though, have you ever seen a Japanese person? They're pale. They're almost as pale as a European. They are who we would call pale Asians. They're not like the South Asians from the Philippines or from Myanmar or from India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Tibet, right? Those are your pale Asians from the Orient, from up in Mongolia, Japan, and those places there. You don't need to be bleaching your skin to look whiter. You're done white already. You know what I'm saying? Them done white already. So what is the point of them bleaching them skin to look even whiter and them done white already? But this is the kind of self-hatred that was taught to the Japanese during the Meiji era restoration of their country because of European influence. A standard of beauty was pushed upon them to make them feel as if they don't resemble their captors, their conquerors, that they can't compete. The same system was run on the Philippines as well. Many Filipinos, even though some are woke, many believe that whiter is better. More Eurocentric admixture is better. The same thing happened down here as well in the Americas. There was a genocide of one's genotype by an admixing that was forced upon them. They were raped. Our ancestors were raped. And any Eurocentric little feature you have about you came about as a result of rape. So there was a genetic genocide. But still there were too many of us. There really were too many of us. So as a last-ditch effort, and in keeping with Willie Lynch's divide and conquer agenda, the European conquistadors decided to rename us. Rename all of the indigenous tribes of the Americas and to give us labels we never asked for, but we kind of just go along with it. So the Arawaks were renamed Jamaicans, and the island of Jamaica was also renamed Jamaica. The island of Jamaica was renamed Jamaica, and the Arawaks were renamed Jamaicans. And yes, they were black Arawaks and they were brown Arawaks. And the brown Arawaks did not experience a genocide. If you're from Jamaica, the coolie youth that was in your class in school, he's an Arawak. He did not come from East India. He is an Arawak. Tell me again the extent to which the brown Arawaks of Jamaica were victims of genocide. You tell me that. Anyway, the Boricuan, or the Taino, was renamed a Puerto Rican. The Aztec and the Olmecs were renamed Mexicans, and some Incas too were renamed Mexicans. And some more Incas from further down in Central America, they were renamed Nicaraguans, Costa Ricans, and Panamanians, and so forth. And then you have the North American Indian tribes, the Tongva tribe in California, the Six Grandfather tribe in North Dakota, the Cherokee, Apache Indians, the ones who they call Native Americans on the census, which, by the way, all of us from the region should be declaring ourselves as natives on the census. Every last one of us, Jamaicans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, all of us from the region should declare ourselves as natives on the census. They did not bring us over on a boat from Africa. Anywhere in the world you see settlements of us, that's where we're from. Our settlement on those lands is as old as our ancestors. Who they couldn't outrightly murder or rape or kidnap and drop them off in some strange land, they rename us as a means of divide and conquer. The native Alaskan was given a derogatory term called them Eskimo. The Hawaiian, I forgot the name of the native Hawaiian tribe. Perhaps somebody can tell me in the comment section below, or I will do my research. They were also renamed. And there is stories of exploitation of the owners of a certain pineapple plantation in Hawaii, for which the original owners of the plantation were exploited by the founder of the Dole company. Dole is the one who cans and packages the pineapples and make pineapple juice and all those things. The founder of that company exploited and stole their estate from them, so he could exploit their plantation for profit. That plantation were owned by native Hawaiians, and to this very day, I don't believe that they receive a single red cent from the Dole estate. Ruthless, greedy exploitation. But you have to bear in mind, this is done by people who truly look at us like we are an inferior people. They have no qualms in doing what they do. Anyway, many of the North American tribes, they have been taken up off their ancestors' land and placed in restoration on Indian preservation sites, where they are cut off from resources. And where are some of these preservation sites? Out in some desert outside of Albuquerque or in Arizona, desert where nothing grows. How come they don't put them on preservation site where there's lush greenery, like up in Washington, up in Seattle and Spokane and those places? Why are they on some freaking desert in Arizona or New Mexico? Why are majority of the preservation sites in desert lands where there's no water and nothing grows? Anyway, the Olmec and the Aztec and some Incas were renamed Mexicans. Some other Incas were renamed Costa Ricans and Guatemalans and all those people in Central America. Taino was renamed the Puerto Rican, and the island of Boricua was renamed Puerto Rico. The Calinagos were renamed Cubans. The island of Haitian was renamed Saint Domingue, Saint Dominic, Saint Domingue by the French. The entire island. And went to St. Louis to kick the French off the islands. Kick the French, kick Leclerc off the island of Hispaniola. It was renamed Haiti. So the good thing about the Haitian Revolution was that Toussaint's rename gave the island back its original name. So that's admirable. But the Haitians still suffer a genocide. They still lost their sense of identity. They probably still don't know, even though they kept records of the name of the original name of the island, they probably still don't know the name of the tribe from which they came. Even though there's record of Calinagos settlement in Hispaniola and Taino settlement as well. Right? And then as far as the Spanish speaking of the countries in this region is concerned, they have broad brushed everybody in that region as a Hispanic or a Latino. That's not even a race. The ultimate genocide is to refer to the Spanish speakers of this region as Hispanics. What about their ancestral tribes? What about Aztec and Inca? Mayan? And why do we accept the labels given to us? Our true strength and power can come from denouncing the labels given to us and go back to using the names of ancestral tribes. Jamaicans should be Arawaks. Cubans and Haitians and Dominicans would be the Calinagos. And the Puerto Rican would be the Taino. The Mexican would be the Aztec. The Ecuadorian, Colombian, and Peruvian would be a Mayan, same as it once was. We gotta go back to that. We have to denounce the Eurocentric labels that they have given to us to cause confusion and genocide and a false sense of identity, and reclaim the power of our ancestors by referring to ourselves in the name of our ancestral tribes. As far as Columbus Day is concerned, we cannot change the system overnight. What we can do is to host an event that would counter Columbus Day with Indigenous American Peoples Day, or the holiday of the indigenous people of the Americas. We can host our event, our own event, come together and put aside all the brainwashing and the petty infighting and the make-believe that one is white when they're not. If you can put aside all of that, denounce the artificial Babylonian labels given to us, put aside the petty infighting for at least one day until we can learn to do better, until this sort of thing becomes more natural to us, and counter the system holiday with our own holiday, and we can call that day the day of recognition of the indigenous people of the Americas. Or if that day, if that name is too long for you, you could simply call it Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous Peoples Day. And we could make it all about us. And that's how you counter the mainstream narrative and send the message that we will not take part in any holiday that celebrates the genocide of our people and uphold the perpetrators of said genocide as heroes and martyrs. We are sending a message. We will not partake in any celebration of the death of me in any way, shape, or form, whether physically or by abduction or by a forced intermixing of genotype, aka rape, or by genocide of identity, the renaming of people with a false artificial label meant to cause confusion, strife, division, and a low self-esteem. We will not partake in any holiday that celebrates the rape, pillaging, and murder of our ancestors. Columbus Day should and will be a recognition and celebration of the indigenous people of the Americas. And we don't have to wait for government approval or permission or whatever it is. We could just go ahead and start celebrating our ancestors all on our own. Those who call themselves our allies will support us, and those who don't support us, we'll know them by their fruit. At some point in the future, we can rent a venue and host a grand gala that celebrates our heritage and our ancestry. But for right now, until that day comes, I encourage you to keep doing your research in hopes of locating someone who is like-minded and willing to do that. Then we could plan for the future. As far as tomorrow is concerned, if you can't be a part of anything as big as what I envision for the future, then instead of reflecting and celebrating the legacy of a murderer and a rapist, you can instead choose to reflect on and celebrate the legacy of your indigenous ancestors. For those of mixed heritage, this may be a very difficult process for you. Those like what's his name again? Rich Numa. Pneumonia. I call him pneumonia. Those like Miss Numa and other fuckface weirdos like that. It may be very difficult to choose what side you're gonna be on, the indigenous side or the Eurocentric side. Those of mixed heritage, it will be very difficult. It feels like you're tearing apart your very soul, or I understand that. Well, let me advise you to not rush the process. Decide over time what side of your heritage you actually wish to celebrate more of. And just because you choose to celebrate more of your Eurocentric ancestry doesn't mean that you fully have to denounce your indigenous ancestry. You can celebrate both at different times. Don't feel guilty or pressured into celebrating either side until you decide what you want to do. But I guess for the fuckface weirdos like Pneumonia, for example, or Antonio, it's very easy for them to make up they've been made their minds up. They've been chose the Iberian side of their ancestry. They've been chose that shit. Been chose it. It's real easy for them to make their minds up. They've been made their minds up. I'm talking about those who are struggling. I'm not talking about those fuckface weirdos. I'm talking about those who are struggling with their sense of identity. Those who are trying to make up their mind what side of their heritage they're going to celebrate more of. Take your time, do your research actually, and don't rush the process. Enjoy the process. And just because you choose to celebrate one side of your ancestry does not mean that you have to completely neglect the other side of your ancestry. You can actually celebrate both. And yes, both sides of your ancestry were once enemies, but you being their descendant and being of a mixed heritage, both are a part of you. So to deny one part of yourself is to deny the whole self. So my advice to you, take it slow, take it in stride, and do your research, trace your family tree actually, and celebrate. Ultimately, I hope you choose to celebrate all aspects of your lineage, all aspects of it, because they all help to make up who you are. You wouldn't be you without every single solitary fragment of your ancestry. So you can choose to celebrate all aspects of your heritage, all of them. At different times. When it's the indigenous time to shine, at that time you give the indigenous side of your heritage 100% full attention. And then when it's time for a celebration of the European side of your ancestry, then give the European side of your ancestry 100% full attention, and celebration. But to deny a part of yourself is to deny your whole self. You are who you are. You wouldn't be you without all of your ancestors. There's a time and place for everything. And tomorrow, Monday, October 12th, 2020, the so-called Columbus Day, that should be a day to reflect on the genocide of the indigenous people, and not, I know it sounds contradictory, but rather it should not be a day to glorify and celebrate the murdersome side of your Eurocentric ancestry, the conquistadorial side of it. You can celebrate good aspects, the good positive aspects of your ancestry, of your European, of all of your ancestry, really and truly. The contributions, the inventions, the innovations. But understand something. Columbus Day is a white supremacist holiday. It's a holiday full of hate. It's a celebration of the genocide of your people. Same as Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is also a day that celebrates the genocide of our people. You don't have to celebrate your European ancestors in accordance to the timetable set forth by the Babylon system. You could celebrate them privately in your heart, or whenever it is that those ancestors, the Eurocentric of the European ancestors have their celebration. But you don't have to celebrate their existence in a way that coincides with the commercial holidays, the paganistic holidays. That's what I'm trying to say. You can still celebrate them in the privacy of your heart. On random days. Don't wait for the system holidays. Do it on random days, is what I'm saying. It does not have to coincide with a commercial holiday set forth by the system, a so-called bank holiday, if you will. It does not have to coincide with a bank holiday. And any holiday, the root of which you recognize as being a celebration of the genocide of a whole complete section of your ancestry, is a day you can choose. If it has evil intent behind it, you can choose to counteract that by a celebration of the positive contributions of the ancestors whose genocide they are celebrating on those commercial holidays. But no matter what you do not help white supremacy fix their mask and cover up their shame. And to perpetuate acts of evil, unprovoked acts of evil and aggression against those who have not done them any wrong in the first place. Next week's topic Is it worth it to sell your soul for a paycheck? I hope you'll join me then. I am Mr. Franklin. This has been Frank and Upfront.